Something occurred to me very strongly last night after the video was that one of the favorite things of lifting every day of high frequency training is the fact that I love how it makes me feel when I come in for a 20-minute session. You know, that transformed the way I thought about training, the way I thought about gymming, bodybuilding, powerlifting, whatever you want to call it. It completely changed everything for me when I realized that you could get value out of 20 minutes, out of 15 minutes. That kind of really made me fall in love with training. Growing up playing basketball, like each training session that we had was like hour and a half to 2 hours. It's a hard slog, but at the end of it, you're absolutely exhausted. And you can't wait to go home. And some training sessions I used to dread, especially the Sunday training sessions where we would often work on fitness. We will play our games on a Friday or a Saturday, and so the Sunday was the furthest training session away from those games, and so Sundays were brutal, man. We'd come in and run. A lot of times we'd spend an hour outside the basketball court, like literally outside the gym, running in the park or the beach or wherever the coach had us. I remember, dreading some of those sessions because it was just pure pain and agony. And then, somewhere in the next 5 years, I discovered Pavel Tsatsouline and the Eastern philosophy of training, and I kind of fell in love with this idea that you can come in and get value out of a 20-minute session. That really appealed to me because it was pure contrast to what I was used to back in the day playing basketball. Like every time I rocked up to a training session, it was freaking war. On Sundays it was fitness. On Tuesdays or Wednesdays, it was more kind of scrimmaging and play work and. But we would often work hard there as well, running the sets and scrimmaging and running 5-on-5s and all sorts of stuff, skill drills. You'd go hard, there's no pussing around those training sessions, especially, when you're playing Division 1, Division 2. Competition is high, right? Like if you string a couple of weeks together of not training hard, you might even lose a spot in the team. So, when I discovered weightlifting and training, I was like, man, you can come in here and get value out of 20 minutes. And so I was like, man, I could do this every day. And that's kind of how the whole thing was born, out of that idea that, yeah, sure, man, we can do this. And I fell in love with it. And then some way along the journey, I turned every single session into an hour and a half session. And I think it's important to realize that's not what this was intended for. It wasn't intended for you to spend an hour and a half working hard every single day. The squat every day or train every day template is supposed to work around you, the everyday bloke. That's kind of how I processed it initially. All these training programs that are out there, they work for various different people, but I found that it was very hard for me to make it work in my life. Nursing is a 24/7 roster, shift work all over the place, and a lot of times I'd come in on the hardest days of the week. I'd come in and it's wartime and I'm just off a night shift, and so I kind of looked for alternatives, and so I found this and I was like, cool, no worries, I'll train every day, and on the days that I'm feeling great, I'm gonna attack. And on the days that I'm coming off a night shift, I'll do minimal volume, come in and still be excited about training because I'm not gonna have to die in that training session. The dying can be done, when I'm feeling great and I've got a full belly of food and I've got 10 hours of sleep, all that beautiful stuff. But some of the content creators that we follow, I definitely fell victim to it. These guys are just sleeping, 12 hours a night. All they do is eat, sleep, and freaking train and make content. A lot of these guys don't have kids, families. They don't have responsibilities like maybe you and I have. So once you realize that, then you kind of taper all that back and taper the expectations. And a lot of the guys will be like, "Oh, you're coping." That's fair. Whatever you think is fair, you conclude yourself. I'll speak to you in 5-10 years time when you enter the stage of life that I'm in, or perhaps I'm younger than you. I don't really know who's listening to this, but there's stages in life, and that 18-year-old is gonna call me a cope, but I'd love to speak to that 18-year-old when he's 35 and he's got a couple of kids and see what where he ends up. The chances are 99% of the guys that are saying cope are not going to be doing anything by the time they're 30, 35. Because life hits you, responsibilities hit you, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'll just quit and blah, 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 blah. And then you don't even come back into some of these chat rooms to discuss these changes in your life. You just disappear. Yeah. So, but that's a matter of perspective. That's a matter of contrast. And I can't sit here and blame somebody that's 18 and doesn't understand what's there. My job is to kind of document my journey, my progress, how I view things, and how I've found workarounds. And this is one of the workarounds. Train every single day, attack when you can, and when you can't, come in for a 20-minute session and make it still work. I think that's the beautiful thing about the whole Squat Everyday thing, and that's why I've strung so many days together. Basically, is that's how basic it is. I appreciate you guys like always, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.